we're jumping into a few key questions after I do a couple of shout outs because people are amazing. And so I'm giving a quick shout out to Tiara. Thank you so much for coming on board since last night's stream. Hayden, hey man, great to see you. Thanks for jumping on. If you're interested in the filmmaking space, we're going to be talking a bit about that, about how to make an independent feature film. This is night number 3, Hayden. We've been here for the last couple of nights doing live and just dropping some value for people who are on the journey that I'm on. And yeah, it's been super fun. So we're going to jump into some questions that have been dropped on me. And we'll see how we go with that. And I think we'll have a lot of fun. But if you have any questions about the filmmaking process, thanks, bro. Great to have you. If you have any questions about the filmmaking process, please chuck them in, because the thing that makes these sessions really valuable and enjoyable for me is interacting with people on the live who have these questions come to them. I do so much better in an interview setting, being interviewed and being asked questions. I think that generates so much more meaningful conversation. So yeah, this is very conversational. But here's the first question. Why do human beings need stories? And what is it about great stories that changes the way we see ourselves? Human beings need stories because I need stories because they both remind me of the scale of my impact from my identity, my choices. And also it's humbling because they reveal how small I am in the grand scheme of things, in the cosmic nature of generations. I think stories are necessary for a human being to see their life through the value of generations, rather than just isolated to a specific moment in time, which I think is where, unfortunately, we can become quite closed off to the past, present, and future, and the impact of our choices on the next generation. And so I'm all about generations with storytelling. It is about generations. It has been for multiple cultures around the world. That's how they've maintained their culture, their civilization, is because of storytelling. And yeah, I don't think that's changed. I don't think the value of storytelling for that purpose of generations has changed. Question 2. I'm going to run pretty quick because I want to leave a lot of space for people who are going to ask questions. Now, if I look over here, it just means I'm looking at your comments. That's where my comments are showing. So just to give you that heads up. So question 2, what separates a story that simply entertains from one that genuinely transforms people? I think this is a great flow-on question from the last one, because we need both. I know there are days when all I want to watch is a drive-through style, fast food style piece of entertainment, whether it's a comedy, The Sandlot, Little Rascals when I was younger. Heavyweights is another one, an old Ben Stiller movie. You know, those kinds of comedies are necessary because laughter is medicine. And yeah, comedies are so essential. They are not, there's a deeper meaning to comedies and their existence. And I think we need that entertainment because there is even a deeper value for that. But in terms of stories that transform people, I could reference a story that transformed my life. It's Braveheart, the story of William Wallace's fight for a nation's freedom. That's a story that will stay with me forever, because I think the way it challenged me and transformed me is it challenged me to see beyond my own life, again, back to remembering scale, you know, the significant value we have in our identity, the significant impact of our choices, but also in the grand scheme, how small we are and how small our time on earth here is. And we want to make big choices that are going to benefit generations. And Braveheart is a great example of that. And so I love that one. Benjamin, my man, thank you for joining. It's so good to see you. Just at the moment, I'm going to follow your advice. I'm going to recap answering the question, what separates a story that simply entertains people from a story that transforms people genuinely. And I was just touching on Braveheart, how that's a story that will stay with me forever, because what it ultimately does in the entertainment package of that film is it challenges a generation to look beyond themselves to the well-being of a nation, to the welfare of a people, and the security of their freedom, and fighting to maintain that is yeah, that's the transformational component that I love about Braveheart, and that's an example of a transformational story. I hope that makes sense. So if you have questions, pop them in, because I want to have a conversation with you guys. This is why we're here. I want to hear from you. I want your questions. No question is too silly to be asked. Let's go there. Question number 3. Big number 3, my lord. That's a little Shrek quote for you. Why do audiences instinctively recognize emotional truth, even when they can't explain it? A lot of things in story are caught rather than taught, and felt rather than telt. That's an old saying that has stuck with me. I think when there is emotional truth in a story, it resonates with us at a soul level, not at an intellectual level. And emotional truth can't be engaged intellectually only. You know, a poor performance from an actor can be engaged intellectually, because you're intellectually analyzing the movements and choices of the actor, and therefore giving an analysis or a review on why it didn't connect at a deeper level. And so having that ability to discern emotional truth in a story is in every single one of us. And I think we've all got a BS meter where we can see a lack of authenticity or sincerity. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's something that can only be felt, and sometimes it's hard to articulate, but I felt it. It landed with me at a subatomic level. You know, I think that is something that is unique to all of us people. And yeah, humanity has that signature, that divine signature, that there's an interaction that happens at a soul level through story that just can't sometimes be explained in words. Number 4. Question 4. How do you write from conviction instead of chasing trends? How do you write from conviction instead of chasing trends while still creating something audiences want to watch? So there you go. There's the balance of a story that has maintained its integrity and its purity, but it's also been met with its commercial appeal. And that's what's really important in the independent filmmaking space, which we're seeing right now with, I haven't seen it, so I'm not endorsing this film because I haven't seen it. But the box office makes it very clear that a $700,000 budget film has grossed over 370 million, called Obsession, from a YouTube comedian turned writer director. And that's an example of it's a unique idea that plunged the depths of the human condition, and basically was able to say the thing that we're all thinking in a cinematic scope and format. And I think that's the beauty of the storyteller and the filmmaker, is we have to be positioned to plunge the human condition. I'm of the opinion that in the process of plunging the human condition, that we're plunging it with the outrope, the escape, you know, of redemption. Not that it's cheap. It's definitely not cheap. Redemption is costly. It's a powerful exchange that happens in story. But yeah, I believe that we have to plunge that human condition, but with redemption in mind. And that's really on my heart for the stories I want to tell. So yeah, how do I write from conviction instead of chasing trends? So it would be easy to go and copy a formula or a format that these guys have used in their writing. And not that we can't learn from it, we must learn from it, but there's something deeper that we have to identify, that the stories that we are to tell so uniquely threaded through the blueprint of our own lives and our human experience that we can't ignore that in the process of seeking out the ways other people have succeeded. And it's confronting because you're being shown this is how you get successful, and the whole landscape is changing right now, where the one thing audiences are longing for is emotional sincerity. They're just wanting something that's real, true, deep, heartfelt, thrilling. It has gritty texture, and it's able to take us on a journey towards redemption, but not ignoring the depth of the valley that we go through to get there, the hero's journey. Yeah, so I hope that answers that question. Yes, Braveheart gets me in the soul every time. Me too, bro. Alistair, just noticed you jumped on. Welcome, my friend. Great to have you. I've just been answering a few questions. I'm going to jump into the next one. Question 5, why is vulnerability often the greatest creative advantage a storyteller has? Because you write your struggles into the character, you write your wrestles into the circumstances, the plot, the stakes, and in some ways, you get to revisit some really helpless and powerless moments of your life as a writer and reframe the entire thing from the way you would have liked it to go without rescuing the character from their struggle. And I think vulnerability means you're able to allow your heart to spill onto the page, but then go through and edit it to make it palatable for an audience to experience that pain, but with the empathy and redemptive bookend to it. Redemptive's very big for me, but it doesn't mean anyone's rescued from their mess. It just means there's a beautiful collision of light and darkness, and light wins in the end. Yeah, so that's why I think vulnerability is so important. If you have a question while you're on, please just chuck it in and I'll answer it as we go as well, because I want to keep this conversational. This is the next question. How does the person you become shape the stories you're capable of telling? Man, they are so tied together, because I think I've shared on previous nights, who I am becoming has become so far more precious to me and to my family, to people around me. Who I am becoming not only is more important than the stories I'll tell, they actually determine the scale and levity and longevity of the stories I tell. And so becoming is a massive advantage to the artist, because instead of compartmentalizing our storytelling to this is my creative brain, and over here my soul is in a mournful state of sorrow, what if they came together and were able to deliver that experience for the audience? That's where people feel connected to characters. It's where there is an authenticity and a sincerity that brings the heart of the writer, heart of the director into the story. So yeah, becoming is absolutely essential to the longevity, the sincerity, and the levity of the stories we're going to tell, in my opinion. And I know that's just true for me, because there was a point in my journey of writing Bella's Room where the research was being embedded into the script. The feature film structure was being embedded into the script and being rewritten, obviously, draft after draft. And the stakes were being raised. The emotional tension was having more stick to the story. And after that, it was then looking at overall and wondering, have I allowed my emotional journey and the experiences I've had in my life, have I allowed that to come into play in terms of informing the texture of this story? And if I have, that's emotionally honest, and it's allowing a piece of myself to serve the audience. Because so often the things that we find most vulnerable, that we want to keep hidden from people, it's actually sharing that in a way that's palatable and a way that's subtle. It doesn't have to be massively obvious. Um, that serves an audience with the reality that I'm not the only person going through this. I think a lot of those vulnerable journeys that we go on, the things we struggle with in secret, when we put that into our stories in a way that's not jarring, when we use intelligence and sensitivity, but we don't shy away from the hard stuff, the audience feels more seen and they become more immersed in the story. And then they're able to be transformed by the story, because you're not only meeting them where they're at and shining a light on them and saying, I see you, but you're also saying, there is a way out of here. There is a way forward. And I love when stories do that for people in the middle of their crisis or in the middle of their darkness. Yeah. Hey, Kai, I just wanted to welcome you. Thanks for jumping on. If anyone has a question, please chuck it in the comments and I will refer to it. Quick shout out to Tiara, who jumped on board helping and supporting since last night's stream as well. Thanks, Tiara. Finn, Oliveri Media, thank you guys for your contribution to this story. It means the world to me. And yeah, you're making a mark that's going to last, and it's amazing. All right, next question. Question 7. Why do the best filmmakers spend as much time understanding people as they do understanding cameras? The way I see it is the people are the thing we're looking at through the window, which is the camera. And obviously, the cleaner the glass, the better the image. But that means the more revealing the image, the more defined the person is. And so it's a real dance between the two. But I would really hate to spend so much time on the quality of the camera and then have the image of our person, our character, show up and for it to be blank, for there to be no soul to the performance. And so the study of people is the job of the writer. The study of human behavior, human experiences, human struggles and wrestles, and allowing that to be explored in our own lives as well is the job of the writer, to be able to put that on page, because that's when the actors look at the text and they go, oh, I can bring that to life because I understand that feeling. And that's the privilege of a writer, is to be able to connect the talent to the story enough that when they appear on camera in front of that glass window, the audience is seeing clearly through a good camera, through the glass, and they're seeing the characters, not just their facade, but they're seeing the vulnerable, they're seeing the internal conflict, they're seeing the wrestle, they're seeing the transformation. And so, yeah, I think the best filmmakers spend equal amounts of time understanding people as they do understanding gear. But the gear is the way we capture it. So, yeah. Question number 8. If no one else has questions, I'll keep going. What beliefs quietly sabotage great storytellers before they ever finish their work? We are all our worst critic. But it really sucks when we don't learn how to mentor ourselves out of that space. And I know this is something I struggled throughout my life. Is I thought it was noble to look at a piece of writing that I'd done and say, man, that's rubbish. And there's nothing noble about it. And so what I've started teaching myself to do is look at it and go, I think I can elevate that. Or I think that needs some improving. I'll work on that. So you notice the change in my tone. I'm not whipping myself over it. I'm just identifying there's room for improvement. I'm identifying that we can improve this. And that is, I've just logged out. My computer's logged out, so I'm just wanting to make sure the stream stays on. So that is, yeah, I suppose the heart behind identifying what beliefs. I think some of the beliefs might be, I'm never going to get good at this, or what I write is never going to get anyone's attention, or the stories I write are just for my eyes only or for my family's. It's like, well, great. Yeah, just minimize the impact of your storytelling to a very small group of people. I'm sure your family will appreciate it, but how much better to allow it to serve beyond your family and for your family to enjoy the legacy of that long after you're gone. Other beliefs are comparison beliefs, that there is always a better writer out there than me, or that writer is so much better. I can never attain the level of quality writing that that person performs. Those kinds of things. It's true. You can never be anyone else but you. But as long as we compare ourselves to other people, we ignore the beauty of who we're becoming, and we deny the people around us the opportunity to see who we are becoming and deny them the benefits of who we're becoming. And so it's so important that we come back to this place of anchoring ourselves in a sense of identity. And that's a journey. And you know what? That happens in relationships, that happens in community, that you surround yourselves with the right kind of people that can see who you really are and will relate to you based on that, not based on your failures, and will also not expect perfection from you, and will be willing to champion you in the moments that matter, in the high moments, in the valley moments. And so it's really important to have those people so that you can identify the beliefs that are sabotaging you. Yeah, I think it's really important to identify those. I hope I identified enough. Number 9, why is perseverance ultimately a creative discipline rather than simply a personality trait? It is a creative discipline because us as artists and creatives, our job is never done. And I think the torment that comes with that is we feel like it's never good enough. And so we don't complete something. I know, like, yep, draft 14, there is a 15th in me, and I know that's practically and logistically true, but when you start to obtain a level of settledness in your work and you are at ease with the idea that it will never be perfect, but is it great? Is it good? Is it excellent? The pursuit of excellence. And I love, when I was homeschooled, I had some learning difficulties, which is one of the reasons I ended up being homeschooled. I would struggle specifically with mathematics. And I can't remember exactly what we were working on at the time, but my dad was there with me, working on, I don't know if it was maths or something else. And there was this whole, mantra back in that day of saying practice makes perfect. And one day, I don't know if it was some divine unction from God, but I ended up blurting out, practice makes progress. And my dad kind of just had a moment and said, "Oh," and he just sat with it for a bit, and he says, "That is really good." And he's never stopped reminding me of that. That practice makes progress. If you're in this journey to progress, if you're on this journey to be in the journey, you will not live in the strain and anxiety of seeking perfection. When you obtain something great, it's important to enjoy the satisfaction of that and move on. That's my thoughts on that. How do you stay emotionally connected to a project over the many years it takes to bring it to life? How do you stay emotionally connected? It has to be a story I care about. It has to be about a character I care about. I cared about Bella the moment the idea seeded in my mind in March 2024, February 2024. It was a character that I related to and resonated with, had an infinity with her journey. I had written in moments of her psychology, moments that were from my own life of, even though I grew up with great parents, there were moments in my life, because we live in the chaotic world that we live in, that I felt like I was more an orphan than I was a son, um, that I was more a pauper than I was a prince. And that whole journey was one of discovery. And I'm so glad that I'm not roundabout in that mountain. And instead, I've gone up the mountain now, which is amazing. Not that I don't have days, but days of struggle with that thought. But um, I was able to resonate with that feeling of not being, not belonging. And so that I've always cared about that story. It's become better over time. It's become richer and deeper in meaning. And so, yeah, I think when you have that emotional connection to a character in the story, or many characters in the story, and you see that there's an audience waiting for a story like this, it's hard to let it go, and it's hard for it to let go of you. Um, so I think that's how I have stayed emotionally connected to the project of Bella's Room over 2.5 years. And it's important to recognize it's because I care. It's because it's an issue. It's a life. It's a heart struggle that I care about, and I think it's a universal wrestle of the heart that needs to be articulated through cinema. So yeah. Any questions, guys? Chuck them in. All right, let's keep going then. I'll just have a quick sip of my dandelion tea. What are you drinking tonight? Tell me what you have. You got a cup of tea while you're watching this? Have you got a soft drink or a kombucha? Bring me up to speed with what you're drinking, what you're eating, and then we can keep going with these questions and wrap up. In 10 minutes, we'll wrap up. So question 11. Can a film carry profound meaning without sacrificing commercial appeal? And if so, how? I really think it's about foundations. Hey, cool, Aiden. I'm a big fan of black coffee too. Yeah, what's the LLL? Is that LOL? Or L2? Is that a special type of black coffee? Is that like a boutique bean? L2. If it is, do tell me where I can find it. L2. Black coffee, L2. You should start that coffee brand if it doesn't exist yet, Hayden. Lol. Oh, okay. Start the coffee brand anyway, man. So can a film carry profound meaning without sacrificing commercial appeal? If so, how? I think it comes back to, hello, LCM 808. I like it. Yes. Welcome. So good to have another one on the stream tonight. Welcome. I was just answering this question. Can a film carry profound meaning without sacrificing commercial appeal? If so, how? It comes back to foundations for me. Where did the story start? Did it start because you had a commercially appealing idea? Or did it start because you had a profoundly meaningful story? Because to me, the commercial stuff always happens later. Well, I can only speak in terms of Bella's Room. That the commercial appeal has been something that's been added in the process to ensure that we know it's going to meet audiences and it's going to meet them where they're at and have a profound reach and impact. But I think just start with the story first. Do you care about the character? Do you care about their situation? Do you want to see them overcome the obstacles that they're facing? Do you want to see them get what they want? How personal are the obstacles? Is it family? Is it career? Is it losing their job? They have to start again. Is it an underdog process? And then the commercial appeal comes later, whether it's the use of, a really incredible soundtrack, visual effects, unique camera work, unique stunts, depending on the genre and the the type of movie it is. Obviously, a rom-com's not going to have all these unique stunts in it. But yeah, is the story going to stand up on its own, with its own meaning, with its own depth, with its heart? Is the audience going to care enough just with the story without any of the commercial appeal? Because if you can answer yes, that this story is still going to have a meaningful impact because it's going to go straight to the heart of the audience, then I think that's when you go, yep, it's going to have a commercial angle to it as well. At least that's been the case for me with Bella's Room. Yeah. All right, moving on. Question 12. This is going to be my third last question. Maybe. We'll see. If more people jump on and you throw some questions at me, guys, yeah, I think it would be good because it'll help just enhance. Yeah, that'd be good. So why do audiences return to stories that make them feel something deeply, regardless of genre? I think it's like when you have a shared memory with someone. You have a shared experience with someone that you may not have been close to at the time, but as a result of sharing that moment with them, you have a bond that has been forged through that situation you've been through. I think it's similar with movies. I happened to watch this on the anniversary of my grandfather's passing, or this was the movie I watched straight after I'd lost my job, or this was the movie I watched on my birthday. And anything where you have connected a specific movie, especially if it was good and it had heart to it and it related and resonated and had an affinity with you, it just obviously builds out the resonance for that. And I think that's what makes stories rewatchable, is yes, a good story, good commercial appeal, and you happen to watch it at a significant time of your life, significant event. And you've had a bond with that story ever since. Question 13. How do you balance artistic integrity with the realities of distribution, finance, and audience expectation? Whew, that is a good question. How do you balance artistic integrity? So I keep coming back to, is the artistic integrity foundational like the story? Is it in the mix? Is it major ingredients? Because for me, when you get the story right, there should already be a sense of, is this distributable to national, international? And then if it's not, that's when you return to the script and you go, well, what needs to be adjusted, added, or changed to cater for that larger audience? For example, I can't share too much right now, but we have interest from the US for Bella's Room, which means there's a whole nother collection of discussions that need to be had. There needs to be more conversations around what's that going to look like? How is the US market going to be served? And so it's important when you're at the stage of reviewing your script and you're thinking about your audience, you're thinking about, what needs to change in order for it to be distributable. Finance and audience, it's very much the same pool of issues. Is, your audience is going to be very much reflected in the people who help to finance it. If they care about the story, and if you've structured it for a commercial release, then you're going to be looking for commercial cast that can be attached, and therefore you're going to have a bit more weight to bring to the finance decision makers, which will then give you a bit more confidence as the storyteller about the audience appeal or the audience impact of the story. So I hope that answers the question. But then if you return back to the bare essence of the story, like I do with Braveheart or The Godfather, an ice cold tragedy about the people you love. That was the one sentence pitch. At least that's how they portrayed the one sentence pitch. An ice cold tragedy about the people you love that the producer of The Godfather gave to the studio exec about adapting the novel The Godfather into a motion picture. And so it came back to that artistic integrity of the story being packaged in a sentence that appeals to people that will then say, this has wings for the market, and we can see that this is going to really reach a large audience beyond our shores. And it's really good that if you start training yourself to think that way about the stories you want to tell. Question 15. I'm going to skip 14 just because we're running out of time. Why is trust the most valuable currency an independent filmmaker can build? Because everything rests on trust. And if your trustworthiness as a filmmaker can bear up under the weight of responsibility you find in the filmmaking process, you're going to be seen as someone who is consistent relationally. And that creates emotional safety for the team that's to work with you. And trust will cause an entire film set to relax and to perform at a peak level. When you don't feel safe, I mean, it really depends on the movies you're making, but ideally you want to feel safe on a film set. And I'm not really of an opinion that you want to create stress for anyone because you think they'll operate at a better level. I just don't buy that. I find that emotionally disturbing, and I find that, I would hate to work in that environment. Obviously, things go wrong, and you've got to navigate stress. So that's not what I'm talking about. I think people operate at their best when they feel trusted to be at the best at what they do, and when they feel like they can trust the people they're working with and working for. And so trust is the most valuable currency, because people always return to people they trust over people that might be a bit more skilled or a bit more credited, but don't have a long-standing reputation of protecting relationships and protecting people. Oh, you get into toxic leadership cultures and things like that. It just, gets really messy. And yeah, that's not why I'm creating. I'm creating to connect, not to create disconnect in people's lives. So, man, let's move on to the next question. Any more questions, guys? Do you have any? Because I'll address them before we wrap up in 5 minutes and counting. All right, cool. Let's move on. Yes, Benjamin Andrew, a healthy set culture is vital. And you, my friend, are one of those people that bring that to life in a beautiful way. And I felt so honored to work with you, and cannot wait to work with you more. Set culture is it's got to start with trust. Yeah. Question 16, why do meaningful projects almost always demand more from us than we expected to give? Oof. So it's like you look at a map of an island and the adventure's in your mind. You know what you want to discover, and you set out on your adventure, and it gets hard. The mud gets sticky and deep, and you look at your map and you realize you're only a tenth of the way to the location you're trying to get to. It is such a journey, and I think it's a journey of the soul, the journey of the heart. I think, that's the only illustration I really have for you, because only when you start to get into the meat of the story do you realize how close to home it is for you personally. And I think that's a really healthy thing, because we're not trying to tell tense and crazy stories for the cheap thrill or the shock value. We're wanting to tell human stories that are going to connect to a human audience, that are written by human beings and directed and acted by human beings, produced by human beings. And I think that's that human connection can never be replaced. And so one of the really key parts to that is the fact that stories have pain in them, and trying to tell those stories well will be painful, but it will be so fulfilling, especially when you're able to produce it with people you love and you have a bond of trust with as you carry out the execution of the storytelling. 17. How does community strengthen both the storyteller and the story itself? They add value to each other. 2 years into this process with Bella's Room, I feel like so much value has been added to me personally, because of the people that have come my way and have come across Bella's Room and have felt a connection to it and a desire to help bring the story to life. I'm in awe of that, and I feel like I've had so much value added to me, and therefore I get to add value to the people that run with the story alongside me. And so, yeah, that's very important. Question 18, I'm going to wrap up in 2 minutes. So if you have any questions, please put them in. What have you learned about leadership through inviting others to carry a vision with you? Well, done all sorts of leadership for years. I feel like I was born for this. And so one of the major things I've learned about leadership is when it's to do with storytelling, I feel an immense privilege and a quiet excitement, because I know what we're about to venture on. Whilst it is intentional, the expression that's about to come about is not predictable, and that excites me. Actors are unpredictable in the way they're going to interpret the text. That excites me because they're going to provide an angle to the character in the story that I haven't even seen yet. They might do it exactly as I foreshadowed or pre-visualized, or they might bring a totally different angle. And then being able to step into that moment with them and thank them for that, or offer a different perspective and ask, can we try, a different way? Leadership within this space is 100% collaboration, in my mind. Obviously, there are things that stop with you in terms of decision making, but if you come to the table as a leader with a heart to collaborate with your team, rather than come in as the person with the power, that just doesn't work. I mean, people look to a director, people look to the writer to deliver, the vision and the plan and the creative execution of the vision. But man, it is so much more rewarding to see all of the people involved as collaborators on telling a story in an excellent way. So that's probably the biggest one, is leadership is about collaboration, more than anything else. It's about being clear on the vision, and being clear with communication is really important. And then anything after that is collaborating. And especially when you've handpicked the people you're going to work with, and you know that they are on board both with their heart, that they have a heart for the story. If they don't care about the story, it's not going to be viable, But if they care about the story more than they care about the job, or at least they care about the story in the context of their job, and they feel like they're going to add value to bringing it to life, I think after all that is in place, it's really mostly just collaboration and working to add value to each other's roles. Okay, I'm going to finish up unless anyone else has a question. But I want to thank you so much for jumping on, guys. I'm just checking the comments. That's why I'm looking over here. Hey, Liam, I saw you join. Fantastic. Just been answering a bunch of questions. Hey, Alicia. I hope I said your name right. Welcome to the stream. I'm just going to answer that last question one more time. Oh, love it. The best things I've worked on have been what you've just shared. No questions from me, sorry. All good. Yeah, I mean, do you have anything to add though, Ben? Like, is there another element that I might have missed there, because you've worked on a broader range of sets, and I'd love to hear any that you suggest, and we could kind of riff off that. But if there's no questions, that's all good. I'll wrap up in just a moment. But I want to just touch on one more thing. There was something closer to the beginning. Why do human beings need stories? Human beings have grown and flourished and maintained civilizations because of story. And for me, stories are essential for me to understand both the scale of my value in my identity and the significance of my choices and their impact on generations. But also, they remind me how completely small I am in the grand scheme of things, in the light of generations. So for me, stories are really about generations. And when I think about my life and the stories that have served me in my lifetime, I think about Scorsese and Spielberg, Jurassic Park, amazing directors, James Cameron's work, that those stories that they've created have stayed with me. Sometimes just because of the sheer wonderful entertainment of them, and others for the heartbeat. Like I mentioned Schindler's List earlier, about how that was a transformational story for me. It was a deeply personal story that was met with great scale for commercial reasons, but it stayed true and pure to the integrity of the story. And it is a story that's transformational because it causes the viewer to no longer just be a viewer, but a participant who's immersed in the world of the story, and is thus challenged to see beyond themselves, in light of the story's subject matter. So yeah, I think that's really, really been a huge part for me of identifying the difference between really entertaining movies and transformational stories that kind of leave a branding mark on my life. And yeah, I'm sure some of you could share some of the stories that have changed your life. So yes, but I am going to hop off now, guys, unless anyone has a question for me before I finish up. We've been talking about independent feature filmmaking. We've been talking about the power of story. We've been talking about a director's mindset. You reckon keep it going? Oh, okay. Just, I wonder if I can get another tea. No, I can't get another tea because I don't have a kitchen here. Let's go over this question. How do you write from conviction instead of chasing trends? Trends are very easy to chase because we are in a comparison climate where we think we will achieve if we measure our own path to success by someone else's path to success. Very cheeky, and I appreciate it. Thank you. If we measure our journey to anyone else's, we've totally departed from the raw power of our own story, and we must come back to that. So chasing trends will always dilute our ability to tell meaningful stories that have heart and impact in them. But that's for me with Bella's Room, writing from conviction, writing a script from conviction. It's because where the story was birthed was in a low place for me emotionally, and I was able to identify with the character of Bella, her longing for a homecoming moment. It's not like I wasn't without a home, literally. It was more a metaphorical state of mind where I was losing, I was failing, I was feeling alone. I was feeling buried in the ground. I was feeling like I was in a barren season where there was no fruitfulness in my life in the areas I wanted to see it. And so I really related to Bella in that sense, because it was a search for a homecoming. And so I was able to write out of that authentic emotion, and write from conviction instead of writing from a place of chasing trends or that commercial bias that we have to write what the market's buying, because that rarely, I don't think I know of any success stories where that has worked. Each person's story with success has usually been because they stayed true to the integrity of the story, the sincerity of its purpose, the purity of the characters, and they kept it real. They kept the texture of it real enough for the audience to resonate with each component of the story, and that's been the emphasis for Bella's Room. It wasn't until the 9th or 10th draft that I had to start thinking, where are the commercial entry points for this film? Where are the entry points where, if a distributor reads this script, will they be able to look at it and go, I can market this really easily. I can get this in front of a big audience. I can get this into the USA. I can get this into Europe, the UK, New Zealand. There has to be a point in our journey as storytellers that we are able to see beyond ourselves enough that we can see that this story will meet another culture entirely. And yeah, I'm really grateful that Bella's Room is able to meet those areas of relating to other cultures outside of Australia as well as Australia. And so that's really precious. And John, I just want to welcome you. Thank you so much for jumping on. A quick shout out to all those who've supported us along the way. Thank you so much. It means the world to have your support. To have your belief in this story of Bella's Room means the world. It's been a collaborative effort from day one. Benjamin has been with me from day one, working on bringing this story to life, and he's on the feed there. So please give a silent applause or an emoji applause for Ben, because he's been a huge blessing. And thank you, John. Bless you too. Cheering you on too. Love your work. John writes poetry. You need to follow him. So make sure you do that. But yes, so this is this whole dynamic of balancing the quality of your story with the commercial viability is such a great journey to go on, and it's uncomfortable at times because we as artists wanted to stay true to the characters and the stories, and don't get distracted by spectacle. But at the end of the day, your story is worth telling, and if it's worth telling, then it's worth telling to a large audience. And if it's worth telling to a large audience, you should learn how to package it for a large audience, because we watch well-packaged stories all the time, and there were people that stopped in the process of making those authentic stories and said to themselves, how can I make this touch an audience in a deep and profound way, but also at scale? And it's a really great journey to challenge yourself to go on and walk with people that think like that. Don't walk with people that keep you small. Don't run with people that want to keep you thinking small. Run with people that challenge you to dream and dare to dream greater dreams, because we get one life to do this, and telling great stories that are going to impact an audience with heart, with redemption, with struggle, with wrestle, and connect us in our wrestles and our struggles is such a privilege that the storyteller has. I'm going to finish with one more question. If you have a question, please put it in the comment, because I'll avoid answering any of these, and I'll prioritize your question. Okay. Why is vulnerability often the greatest creative advantage a storyteller has, because we allow our soul and our heart to spill on the page. And whilst that's messy, there are so many colors and so many textures that we're able to then shape into a palatable experience for the audience. I think vulnerability is such an overused word, but ultimately what it allows the audience to see is the heart of the storyteller. It opens up the chest to allow the audience to see exactly what is in the storyteller's heart for them. And I think that is a profound picture, because it's almost like it's not explicit and exposing, but it allows people to see the depths of a person, and in that process it relates to the deepest and most hidden struggles of the audience. And like any establishing shot, whether it's on a jib or a crane, or if it's a slow dolly push in, it establishes our location, it establishes the place the story's happening in. But as you gently move in slowly, you get closer to your central location. I liken it to, imagine a drone shot coming in from over the top of a town. So we get this macro perspective of the location our story's happening in. And it comes in slowly towards a specific block, and slowly again to a specific street, and slowly again to a specific house. And then the camera comes down to a specific porch and pushes in towards the front door, which is open. And a camera crew is ready to get that camera off the drone and attach it to the Steadicam and move slowly at the same pace down the hallway of the home. It comes around the corner and sees two people having an argument over a bench, over a kitchen bench. And we can see them in their entirety, but slowly we push in on them and we're ending up at an over-the-shoulder angle of them having this exchange. That is an immersive moment for the audience, where they go from just being a viewer to being a participant. And I love that filmmaking, because I want to be, when I'm sitting down to watch a movie, I'm wanting to be immersed in a world other than my own. I'm wanting to experience someone else's story, especially if I'm weary of my own. And it provides this redemptive escape for the audience, but doesn't give them a break in having their issues or their battles or their wrestles related to by someone else on the screen. A way we could shortcut all of that process is just to open from black to a cut to over the shoulder angles of the conversation taking place. And some would say, well, that's coming in close to the characters straight away. Isn't that better? Yes, but bypassing that whole slow process, it shortcut the immersive component. So the audience does feel close to the characters, but only as viewers, not participants. But if you take them on the journey of that establishing shot, you've suddenly immersed the audience. They are no longer viewers, they are now participants in the story. And I think that kind of storytelling, we are hungry for it. There is an audience wanting to be gently drawn in to a vulnerable story that has a gritty texture, a thrilling edge, and a redemptive outcome. So I'm going to finish there, guys. If you don't have any more questions, I'm sounding very New Zealand then. If any more questions, thanks for joining, and it's been a pleasure to talk with you. And I am so grateful for everyone who have contributed to the Australian Cultural Fund. And I wish this could go up on replay. Unfortunately, it can't. I might be able to post it in YouTube though. So I'll keep you in the loop if that's what happens there. But thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. Oh, there's more people hopping on. Hey guys, thanks for jumping on. I wonder if that's Jane. Is that you, Jane? Is that Esther? Hi, I just want to say hi to you guys. Welcome. Thanks for jumping on. We were actually just about to wrap up, but we've been talking about filmmaking, feature filmmaking, how to do an independent feature film, what's the components of that. See you. Yes, fantastic. We've been talking about how to balance the integrity of the story with commercial layering, and what does it take to make a film commercially viable, and staying on track with the integrity of your story that you want to tell. So yeah, we've had loads of fun, had some laughs, and yeah, I was just about to finish up. But does anyone have any questions? Last call, because then I'm gonna hop off. If you have any questions, I'm gonna give you a minute to ask them. Could be about filmmaking, could be about storytelling, it could be about acting, it could be about directing, could be about music. Do you have a question about music? It's one of the most exciting things for me, to be honest, is the music side of film, because there are so many films over the years that have just captivated me because of the soundtracks. Stories from my childhood that I just get transported back, and music is transporting. Yes, so I'll close with this thought. This last question. When this campaign is over, what do you hope people remember? Not about the fundraising, but about why a story exists. Story is, yeah, Hans Zimmer. Oh, all the way, Jane. Love it. Yeah, look, fundraising is really just equipping the army with the resources to go out and tell the story. Army isn't the right word. It's just giving the people the tools in some ways, and it's giving an audience an opportunity to take part in getting the story told before a single frame is filmed. It's where the audience gets to demonstrate confidence in a story and say, we believe in this, and we believe it should exist. We believe it should come to cinemas and streaming platforms, and that basically we believe this story should be told. And so I think that's the one thing is, yeah, I really believe these stories are just so important. Yeah, these stories need to be told. Just getting being just gonna see if I can I answer a question. I got a question here, guys. Someone's hopped off the live feed, but they've been kind enough to send me this question. So here we go. Sorry I didn't get to ask this question in time, but I'm keen to ask it anyway. I've found many recent films are either spoon-feeding their audience or deliberately adding twists for no good reason. Both feel very manipulative and forced. So I'm wondering what the question is there. I'm just going to write back. Interesting thought. I'm writing live, guys, so just hang tight for me. Interesting thought. What is the question? Oh yeah, here we go. Love it. Answering it now. As a storyteller, how do you find that balance of taking your audience on that journey without making them feel dumb or tricked? Intelligent storytelling never spoon feeds its audience. It trusts the audience to see the subtext, to read between the lines. There's a lot of movies I know that overdo the dialogue and use exposition through dialogue way too much instead of through actions or the appearance of shots or things like that. I think, yeah, there's that is annoying. I find that annoying when you have the storyteller feels like they have to make it obvious. You know, I've done that with my jokes. where I'll feel like I need to explain the punchline when people already know the punchline. They just didn't find it funny. It's kind of like that with storytelling, is that I don't know, if we're afraid of ambiguity, if we are afraid of ambiguity or feeling like we're not being clear, we then over explain. And for years, I found myself over explaining in the screenplays I was writing. And I was so grateful that I had professional coverage done by a US writer in Hollywood. I paid them to review a pilot for a series that I was writing. And they were very kind and gentle, but they also were direct that, Elliot, you are over explaining in your writing. I got it at the top of the page, but you didn't have to go on and explain it again and reinforce it again. Because, yeah, like my friend has just asked that question. Yeah, you make the audience feel like they're dumb, and you make them feel like they're not intelligent enough to see it in the first instance that moment happened. You didn't have to go and explain it through dialogue. So I'm not going to go over explaining the answer to the question. I think you guys get it, because that would be ironic. But yeah, that's a really good point, and we don't want to do that in storytelling. We want to dignify the audience as being intelligent and perceptive. Yeah, so good. I love that question, and I want to steer clear of the stories that do that, because I don't want that style of storytelling to rub off on me. Because yeah, it's so much more experientially thrilling to keep the audience engaged with a bit of mystery. There you go. Thanks, Jane. That's awesome. Wonderful, guys. Well, thank you for jumping on tonight. I'm going to finish up there. If you have more questions afterwards, feel free to shoot them through. And yep, the element of surprise is very important. Maintaining tension and maintaining mystery and keeping consistent surprises is very important. Yeah, but if you have any further questions, feel free to DM me and I will do my best to answer them. I'm not going to do any more lives at this stage, unless there's a great demand for it. But thank you for joining. Thank you for your partnership as well with the fundraiser. It finishes in, I'm going to tell you, there's like a countdown in my story. It finishes in 1 hour and 58 minutes. So we have that amount of time to raise a heck of a lot. But we are nearly 40% funded, and we are super grateful for every single dollar raised, which is, yes, it's a real achievement, and it's happened collaboratively. It's happened through community. And actually, I think we got a new shout out. Have we got a new shout out? Oh, yes. I wonder. Nerida, massive thank you to Nerida, who's given. Tiara, I gave Tiara a shout out. Fantastic. That's awesome. We are now 38.44% funded. So thank you, guys. So we'll just, yeah, apparently 2 hours and 15 minutes left. Okay, so a bit longer than what I thought. But yes, huge thank you to those people. To our 24 supporters, thank you for being on the journey to see this film come to life with us. I did mention earlier that we've got some interest from the US in this story, and we're in early conversations. I can't go into any details, but it is exciting. It's wonderful. And we're taking it step by step, because this thing is all about relationships. If you're wanting to be in it for the long haul, value the relationship building that happens with the people you meet. And yeah, superbly important. It's the thing on which everything is built, is relationships and trust. So yes, thank you very much, everyone, for being a part of it. Just going to double check, is there any updates to those donations? No, that's it for now. Cool. All right, well, thank you. Yes, thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for jumping on, and we'll stay in touch, obviously. All right, thank you for being here, guys. Talk soon. Bye-bye.